Welcome. This is Impact 2021. My name is Nathaniel, and this is our conversation, where we continue to talk about issues, current events that are going on in society. Primarily, we talk about social justice, the fight for social justice, the fight for social change, and we talk about it from different aspects and different experiences based on the guest that we have to join us. Today, however, is a somber day. We had scheduled to talk about Andrew Brown Jr. in North Carolina, Elizabeth City, North Carolina. And we actually had a couple of people from North Carolina who were scheduled to come on. What we've had, though, in recent developments is that today they are protesting down in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. And so let me go ahead and paint the picture for you of what's been going on, just in case you may not be familiar with the situation. And so on April 21st, Andrew Brown Jr., 42 years old, was shot and killed by the sheriffs, specifically by sheriff's deputies. And basically what it was called by his son is an execution. It's called an execution, basically. The son was very upset after watching the video, which was put out on today. They were able to watch a 20-second clip, a redacted clip. So it wasn't the full video, it was just a snippet of it. And it was a redacted clip, which means they couldn't see the officers' faces. So they saw a piece of the clip, which was only 20 seconds, and couldn't see the officers' faces. And so where we're at now is basically what happened was, according to the autopsy, which was released today, was that Andrew Brown Jr., the officers were coming to the house to do a search warrant. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get the information in. Doing a search warrant for a drug-related offense. So just a search warrant now. And in the process of doing so, he was in his car with his hands on the steering wheel, and he backed out of his driveway and started to drive away. During that process, he was shot, and he was shot 5 times, total 5 times, 4 in the arm, and then 1 additional time in the back of the head. And the back of the head shot was the fatal shot that killed him. 7 officers have been put on administrative leave. According to the family attorney for Andrew Brown, it was said that the video shows that Brown was in his driveway, his hands were on the wheel, and he was shot as he was fleeing away. And he was killed and then eventually ran into a tree. And so that's basically where we are. The video hasn't been released because North Carolina law, depending on who you hear it from, there's some issues there as far as the judge has to release the video, the body cam videos from any one of the 7 officers. There was one video released from the city that shows the officers actually driving up to the area where it occurred. And so spoke to a person who was there, Pastor Daniel Spice, who was telling us that they're going to have a peaceful protest tonight. There's been peaceful protests, they're not breaking any windows or doing anything like that, but they're protesting tonight because they want to see the full unredacted version of the video, not a 20-second clip that the police choose what they're going to show. And so now we have Javon here, and we're going to go ahead and discuss what's the feeling and what's going on down in North Carolina. So Javon, thank you for joining.
What's going on now?
All right. And just as a reminder to everyone, this is an interactive show. So if you have any comments or any questions, please type those into the comment section. So basically, just put it out there. We went over what the Andrew Brown case was. You're down there in North Carolina. Yeah. Tell me, what is the climate like? What is it like down there?
I actually just got home. I just left
Mhm.
one of the protests literally minutes ago. It's it's a lot of tension in the air. You know, you can feel it everywhere you go with. Um, if you look at people who you can tell, you don't know what side people stand on.
Yeah.
Um, but one thing I will say, you know, from being on the grounds, from being on the front lines, you know, the media has a way of painting pictures of people. Just like now, we have an 8 o'clock curfew here tonight. I
Mhm.
don't know if you guys seen yesterday. There were videos of, you know, on police and everything on the roof. There has not been anything. It, it, every protest has been completely peaceful. You
Yeah.
know, if you want to make a complaint about something, most has been we have blocked traffic. But when I say blocked traffic, you know, the police have escorted us all the way. The police are actually the ones, you know, in the roads with us, blocking off the traffic, making sure that no one gets in, no one harms us as we're peacefully protesting. But it's definitely one of those things. You know, you can tell. You know, tensions are pretty high. Tensions are high, but I can really say, with the request of the family, and then just with just the manner in which we're doing this, Pastor County, we're keeping as peaceful as we can.
Yeah. So there's been comments that there's a difference between the city police, the police of Elizabeth City, and then the sheriff,
Correct.
the county sheriffs.
Correct.
And reports have been saying that there's a good relationship basically between the city police and the community, and that the problem here, one of the problems here, is that the sheriffs, the sheriff deputies who were involved in this shooting, the relationship isn't the same. It's not like they do community policing or anything like that. What is any experiences, or can you speak to that? Is that a true or accurate statement as far as you know?
So from what I've known, now I'm not originally from here, but since
Mhm.
I've been here, one thing I have noticed, so the city police, they are definitely, they're they're a lot more visible. They have, especially when it comes to these communities, they don't just police these communities; they engage with the people that they police. So you'll see these cops in the communities with no badge on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, I've seen maybe three sheriffs that I know in the community without their badge. You know what I'm saying? And that says a lot. You know what I'm saying? When you're someone who you're gonna step foot in these communities with just your badge on, that shows that you're not safe. You know, of course, I'm gonna take a little caution when I approach you when you're in uniform, but without it, I'm definitely, it shows a relationship. I was shocked when I heard that the sheriff issued the warrant. Now I do know most times sheriffs are the ones who issue the warrant, but I was shocked that they were the ones going into that community because I know you see officers ride that community all the time. So why didn't they go with anybody from ECPD? I don't know. That still,
Mhm.
behooves me. And I have had my run-ins with some sheriffs here. Um, I can say, fortunately, they haven't been bad. You know what I'm saying? But it's just one of those things. I don't know. It's definitely different. You can tell the difference between both departments. But I will say this: there are. I'm not going to make it seem like the entire sheriff department is a bunch of crooked goonsmen, because there are some good guys over there. Like truly, truly, I can name a few good guys over there. There are some
Right.
good guys over there. It's just it's a group over there that isn't the most polite either. So yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the video that they showed. They released the video,
Hmm.
the city video, and it's disturbing because you see, and this is a search warrant. This isn't a again. This is not an arrest warrant of drug
Hmm.
charges. This is just a search warrant.
Search warrant.
But
Yep.
you see a pickup truck
Yep. Yep.
with a bunch of guys in the back of the truck.
Yep.
Now, I don't know about you, but when I see a pickup truck and there's a bunch of guys in the back of the truck, they out there to do some
Oh,
harm.
most definitely. I'm gonna tell you what's so where the incident happened at. I drive through there every morning. Honestly, I just drove through there right before it happened because I was taking my son to daycare. Our
Mm,
county is on Wednesdays work strictly remotely, so all the students stay home Wednesdays. Had it been any other day of the week, it would be kids at the bus stop when they did that. Any
right.
other day, there would have been kids at the bus stop. Still trying to understand why, because if you know Andrew Brown, Andrew was not a violent guy, not even a
Mm,
little bit. Like he was not a violent guy. He was not a violent guy, and you could hear that from police officers, from probation officers. Violence was not one of the things you associated with him. So to say that, because the sheriff did say they brought so many officers because he has a history of resisting arrest. My thing is, if he runs, all right, you don't got to shoot him. Like if he runs, then okay. Then now when we get him, when we catch him, we're gonna lock him up because he ran. But you don't got to shoot him.
Right.
So like the fact that they showed up like that, if it had been me, and I'm one of the most cleanest people in the world, I would have ran. If you show up in my house, with a car full with guns pointed, I'm running.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that's still strange. That's still strange. My mind, where I'm from, if somebody shows to your house like that, they come to do something to you. They're not coming to serve you anything. Nah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Now, I think that's when you see that picture, you can understand why somebody would be
Hmm.
wanting to run. And so what we've had is as Black men, it's been a hard April. It's been a really bad April for us. And then at the same time, you see the George Floyd killer, the Derek Chauvin trial, and the irony is that the same day that the verdict was read was the day that this happened.
Yep.
The same day that the verdict was read,
Yep.
the young lady, the young 16-year-old who had a knife, was shot and killed by a police
Yep.
officer. You last week when we had some gentlemen on, one of the things was we had to be prepared because there was going to be some backlash
Mhm.
due to Derek Chauvin. I know that none of us know that, but as yeah, that was the question last week. Do you believe that may be the case, that we may need to be, as Black people, especially Black men, be a little bit on our game as far as being extra cautious now, because there may be some backlash coming from certain, not all, but certain officers?
You know what? I don't think it's any different from what we're already used to. We're already prepared to do anyway. I was telling my
Mm-hmm.
wife the other day, just yesterday, I said, growing up, we're taught, like we're taught how to deal with the cops. We're taught, that there are some crooked cops. We're taught, some of us are taught cops aren't any good, and then we have our own encounters with the cops, and it plays an effect on us. And we get older and we see stuff like this, and it's really like it's one of those things that's still constantly sitting in. I told my wife, I said it hurts because, as Black men, we still, there's a part of us deep down inside we want to believe in the system, want to believe in deep down inside, this thing will work. But also it affects us still because this is our trauma, this is our fear, this is the thing of we're scared to drive down the street and they get behind us. I don't know about you, but I know every time one gets behind me, I make sure I'm saying in my head, okay, your registration's here, your license are here. If they cut those lights on, get these things this quick so you can grab them and show them everything. Like all these things happen. So saying is wouldn't be any backlash. I think it's one of those things, I think we always shocked that the officer did get convicted, and that's sad to say. I think we always shocked, but I think more than anything, I think this just kind of reassures the things we kind of been dealing with. It just kind of reprogram, but not reprogram, but it just shows us, okay, let's just keep moving how we've been moving. Let's keep being aware, keep looking over our shoulders, keep, making sure if they get behind us, we're not speeding, we're not doing nothing crazy. Those things, man, and it's sad, but we're programmed that way. And Black men, like Black men in this world, we've like systemically been traumatized, systemically have PTSD because those are things that have been programmed into us.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. Every time, it's funny how you talk about when the police are behind us in the car. Every time a cop is behind me in the car, I just start to sweat. Like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter. I haven't done anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
My tags are all clean. I just start to sweat. It's just an automatic reaction of just
Yep.
like,
Yep.
uh,
Yep.
yeah,
I won't even leave the house. My wife will go places, and if I realize I don't have my ID, I'll tell her immediately we have to turn around
yeah,
because I will not go places. I won't go places unless I have my ID on me, just because that's what you're not gonna do. You're not gonna stop me. I don't have ID, and then you start questioning everything else about me. You know what I'm
right,
saying? So that's one of
right.
those things, man. Like you're fearful of it. You're definitely fearful of it. I remember, you know what? I will share this story. When I was in college, I graduated from Elizabeth City State University. I was in college, and I was working at the town next door. It's called Moyop, and I was
Mhm.
working at the Domino's there. It was me and three other guys coming home from work. We all had on our red Domino shirts. One guy was from Currituck, other guys from Elizabeth City. I'm from Plymouth, and we all had our IDs on us. And the sheriff stopped us, asked where we was going, and we were going home. because we lived off campus. And the sheriff said, "All right, we'll keep going." And I didn't think nothing of it. And we got 30 yards out, and they stopped us, and they legit like made us lay on the ground, guns drawn on us. The vehicle we were driving, they tore it up. There was nothing in the vehicle, and I just remember saying to myself, like, I remember just sitting there thinking, like, y'all don't know I'm a college student. Y'all don't know, I'm a part of SGA. Like, you don't know any of these positive things about me. You just see a black guy in a red shirt, and they can get over the fact that it was 3 black guys in the car together from different places. And the one thing they kept asking me is, "Where's the drugs at?" After they tore the vehicle up, and of course we brought food home from after work. They threw all our food out, and we asked, well, are you gonna reimburse this? Are you gonna apologize? They got in their cars and drove off. And it's like, when you're dealt with like that,
Yeah.
and all you're trying to do is better yourself, how can you trust the system? And it's sad because I'm a father of 2 sons, and I have to one day prepare them for, okay, this is the kind of world I got to prepare you for. You know what I'm saying? This is what you got to kind of deal with. My grandfather who raised me, he was a war veteran, and they loved him overseas. And he said one thing that bothered him was he would go overseas and serve his country, or we would live overseas, and they treat him like a man, but he'll come home and get questioned because of the kind of car he drove. He'll come home and get questioned because of the house he lived in. That bothered him. And that, it's one of those things, like, I told my wife, I have dealings with so many parents who always tell me about how much they appreciate me because of what I do for their kids of all races. But if they knew my background, they knew where I came from, would they still appreciate me the same way? Because one of those things, just like LeBron when he told him to shut up and dribble, do you only like me because of my performance? Because even now, you talk about Andrew Brown, you hear so many people saying stuff like, well, he was a criminal, he sold drugs, but he was still a human being, still a father, still a man, that he deserved to die. True indeed, we all have done stuff and have not got caught. But does that constitute death? At the end of the day, none of us play the hand of God where we can say who deserves to live, who deserves to die. So if you just show up and just start shooting somebody, I don't care what you did, no one deserves death. That's between God. And for people to really say just because this man had priors, he deserved death, that's not okay. But that's our world. So it makes me wonder, like, at what point do I deserve death by the people in the community I serve? Like, how much of a tightrope do I have to walk on? Am I only good because of my performance? Sorry for rambling, but yeah.
Oh, no. That's you're making a powerful point there. Like, as long as, and I think that's what people don't understand sometimes is, you got these guys, black guys, and they'll sit there and they'll be like, man, I'm with I'm in this group full of white people or other people, and they're saying, if you just did what I did and hung out with them and followed the rules, and like the only value you have to some of them is that you have value to them. But as soon as you stop having value to them, as soon as you stop, feeding their ego or making them money or doing whatever, they go treat you like they treat everybody else. So, it's weird. Let me get to this comment that we have.
Okay.
Says, why was he a threat? Talking about Mr. Brown. Why was he a threat? What was his weapon other than his skin color?
That's it.
Now, they said he was in the car.
Yep.
And it depends, because we don't have a video, we don't know exactly. But from what they were saying, the cops were by the house. He was backing away. So what was the threat there? How do you justify just shooting at him?
Even when they searched the car, no drugs, no weapon, just him dead. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think an apology can suffice that. You know what I'm saying? My bad, you shooting at somebody 68 or better times. You know what I'm saying? He never once shot at you. Even when he tried to pull away, he didn't pull away where like you would have been in danger. And again, him pulling away was because you shot him 4 times already. Who wants to let you sit there and shoot at him? And I don't mean to get off subject. So a week prior to that, one of my friends back home, I posted a video on Facebook. One of my friends back home, and he's done some stuff in his past. He's never hid that, But when our friends died over the summer, and he made it clear, like, I'm never going back. I'm walking straight and narrow. And he was riding the dirt. They were riding dirt bikes. They were done riding dirt bikes, and they were walking. Cop came behind him, choked him out. The cop couldn't slam him, and he wasn't resisting. He just stood firm. Cop couldn't slam him. Cop tried to choke him out again, couldn't slam him. Kicked him in the chest, and then tased him. And so he had to go to court last week, but he went to court for resisting arrest. And my question was, how do you resist arrest when literally someone comes up to you and just start grabbing you? Like, what did they do? Like, what happened prior to that for them to want to put hands on you? But you have to go to court for resisting arrest because the sheriff decides to walk up on you and do that. And for me, those things between whether it's my friend, whether it's Andrew Brown, those things scare me because or make me wonder because I mean, it's because of my skin, it's because of who I am. Is that serve as a threat? Like why? Like I'm not gonna bother nobody. Again, if you would have spoke to that man, he would comply. So one of the questions was, and we all asked, why didn't the sheriff call someone from ECPD that has a relationship with him like they do, and say, hey, they got a warrant for you. Now, either they can come serve it to you, or you can go downtown, turn yourself in. As a matter of fact, we'll come with you just so you'll be okay. And he would gladly went. But yet still you show up with guns blazing and you try to make it seem like, no, it's horrible, man. It's horrible.
And I think that's the part that we were discussing in the prior week is that now things are being done to rough some people up. Like instead of policing in a way that you could de-escalate to get some of this, because some of the police maybe feel attacked, to get some of this off of me, I'm gonna be a little bit rougher. I'm gonna be a little bit more, you look at this and you see, all right, Mr. Brown was shot driving away, and then you look at Daunte Wright, who was in Columbus, Ohio. Was it Columbus, Ohio? Let me not get the place wrong. It wasn't Columbus, Ohio. It was in same place as who was shot. This is a young man. They were pulled over for having expired tags, and the lady pulled out the female officer pulled out a taser, or thought she pulled out a taser, or said she pulled out a taser, depending on what, and pulled out a gun and shot him in point blank, while he was just trying to drive away.
Yep.
As well, and so you have these incidences. The same type of incidents is now where, because I'm scared and I'm fleeing, that constitutes murder. Like that's what you should. He was shot in the back of the head.
In the back of the head. He's no threat.
Even if you're watching an old Western, they're going to call you a coward for shooting somebody in the back.
Yep.
And so what have we devolved to? We got another comment that says, as African Americans, is it our job to prove we are worthy every day of having a life? Do we have to constantly, is it our job to just constantly prove to people that we're worth living, that our life actually matters and has purpose, that you shouldn't kill me? We got to prove to you that you shouldn't murder.
I think by default we've been placed in that category. I don't think that's something like we wake up every day like trying to prove, but by default we're put in that category. I said by default. How many times you pick up the phone? it is so weird. How many times you pick up the phone and place an order and you got to put in a certain voice? How many times do you walk in a room or you go to the bank and you're making a deposit? You got to change your voice. How many times we have to change who we are just to prove like, hey, I'm a good one. I'm not, I'm not a threat. And that's what I say. I think by default we try to show people all the time, hey, you don't have to be scared. It's okay. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny because if you get around a room of people who look nothing like you, and after 5 minutes of engaging with you, you can watch like the air the sigh of relief. He's a good guy. I can joke, I can laugh. And it's like I don't think we put ourselves in that category. I think it just happened that way, just because that's how some people are brought up to. They're brought up to think, okay, they're these type of people. So yeah, I don't think that's not our fault. Just it is what it is.
Yeah. Another comment. It says that if we go along and follow the rules, we still get harassed, which has been proven. In the case of Virginia, where the lieutenant, dressed in his army attire, was pepper sprayed in the face, pulled out, pushed onto the ground, and he followed the rules. He did what he was supposed to do. They asked him to pull over. He put his hazards on, slowed down, pulled over in a well-lit area for not only his protection, but theirs as well. Put his hands up. They gave him conflicting messages of get out the car, but also keep your hands up. And he had a seatbelt on, so you can't do all of those at the same time. Even when you're following directions, you still get harassed. So, as our time is fleeting away, the question then becomes for us, as you and I sit here, we both got kids, and we don't want them to have the same type of life when it comes to policing as we had and as our parents had. Although we know the reality is it's probably going to be that way.
Yeah.
So right now, what do you think, as y'all are sitting there in the middle of it in North Carolina, what do you think needs to be done in this situation? What needs to be done in this situation? Is it as simple as it needs to go to trial, just like Derek Chauvin, and these people need to be prosecuted? What needs to be done, that's going to kind of help move this along a little bit?
Well, every cop involved needs to be locked up, period. Like, there's no way around it. Every cop involved, all of them need to go to jail, period. Like, and they need to go to jail. And they need to be sentenced not as cops, but as human beings who broke the law. It's a difference, a lot of times, because you're an officer, and they'll say things like, well, hey, he's a cop going in jail, it's gonna be kind of rough on him, so they'll give him a shorter sentence. No. If I kill somebody right now, you can give me 30 years. You get that same man 30 years. But as far as for our homes, I was reading a book recently. They taught their kids the laws, They made sure, like, one thing they did, they taught their kids the laws. They made sure their kids, so if someone stopped them or someone would harass them, they understood the laws, what you could and can't do. And it's real, and you can say anything to anybody who doesn't know the law. Just like Andrew Brown, when his family went to the courts to view the video, the first thing they said was, you can come, but your attorneys can't come, just your family members. Like, again, if they didn't have attorney present, it's a good chance it's possible they would have failed for that, not knowing. Not saying they would have, but if you didn't know, it's easy to fall for that. So I think, I think we got to make sure we teach our kids laws, teach our kids traffic laws, teach our kids stop and frisk laws, teach our kids just what can an officer can do to them as well as anybody else, but as far as those officers, I think, they all need to be prosecuted, to the highest extent of the law, because, that was a murder. That was a murder. That was a homicide. That was execution. And it needs to be treated as such. No more, no less. No more, no less. True indeed, bring up all the facts. Because we know the facts. One thing I give our community the benefit of the doubt is we don't have to wait for court. We take our own stuff to trial. We're going to call you out if you're wrong. We're going to tell you if you're wrong. You know what I'm saying? So they can't air out nothing dirty laundry because we've already, discussed that, publicly. So that's not our fear, but we definitely want you, let's treat this thing fairly, even as far as the officers. I don't know if you guys knew this, but the only officer who's so in the beginning we were told it was one officer. Only officer who's and again, it's not one of those tell us all their names, but the only officer whose identity was shown was a black officer. You know what I'm saying? So of course, when people look at the crime, and people have said this, you've seen people on social media say, well, you don't have to try to push an agenda because it was a black cop who shot a black man, so you have to push an agenda. But it's like, we don't care about who the cop was. It was wrong. But now that we know it was 7, okay, now we're back to the drawing board. How are we gonna fix this? So yeah, and then you go to jail. Ain't no way around it. Hey, end of the day, we all fall in the same constitution. It is what it is.
Yeah, the good part is, I think for this situation is that even though people were saying we got to vote, we got to do all this, it'll change things have not changed. The feds, the FBI has decided to come in and watch over. And you can have even if you don't have confidence in your particular government, your state government, your local government, sometimes we can have a little bit more confidence that when it gets opened up into the federal level, it opens it up to more people, more eyes.
Yeah.
And sometimes those little games that you locally want to play don't get played.
Yep.
So, we all support what's going on in North Carolina, especially supporting the protest. We thank you for participating with others. And just for everyone who is watching, we got to remember, like, this is happening everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
From North Carolina to Virginia. It's been in Michigan. A little boy just got shot in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
It's happening everywhere. So these aren't isolated incidents like, oh, look what's happening over there. This is happening everywhere. And the only difference between the stuff that just happened in your area last week and what's happening here is that one was caught on video and others are not. These cops sometimes have body cameras, sometimes they don't.
Sure.
Their cell phones sometimes, and sometimes they're not. And so we definitely do have to be safe. I appreciate you sharing with us, what's going on down in North Carolina.
Okay.
I appreciate your perspective that you've been able to bring it to us. We just got to keep the fight going.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right. Well, our time is gone. That went pretty quickly. We got one more comment here. I want to just throw that in. And it says, we need more religious people to speak out about this type of racism. Real quickly, give me a comment on that.
And true indeed. We all know in the Black communities, the church is pretty much like the staple of the communities. So having those pastors, having those church leaders with their feet on the ground, and then being active in this, it definitely helps. But I don't think we should put all the pressure, or we should hold them accountable. I think we need to hold our own communities accountable. I think we need to hold ourselves accountable. I think we all need to just agree to, okay, if we're going to fix this, and not just us, because this is my piece with it. Now, we can have these pastors preach out on it. True indeed. You know what I'm saying? But I challenge everybody, go into your workspaces and sit down with your colleagues and have a real conversation. Like, really ask them, and be real with each other. I had a friend of mine, we had a conversation recently. He told me, because when I was in high school, none of the white kids, they always got signed out on the day we had Black History programs. And he told me, he said the reason he never came to the Black History program was he was told at home that the program was going to be a full presentation of things that happened before they was even here. That happens to people that they don't even know, and people are going to look at them and judge them whole time they're there. So again, when you don't have these conversations, people are ignorant or blind to the fact of things that are going on, or ignorant and blind to the fact of what's going on in the community. I've had people, I have colleagues who didn't believe I've ever been harassed by a cop because I'm educated. You know what I'm saying? But again, that's what people think, just because, okay, well, wow, well, you went to college, you did that, you did this, that, and the third. You must be one of the good ones. You come from middle class background too, huh? But these are the things you have to have these real conversations with our colleagues, with our communities. True indeed. How about having those religious leaders, having their feet on the ground. Those things matter. But I think it just takes all of us to, instead of sweep stuff on the rug, look each other in the eye, have real conversations with each other, and agree to disagree if need be, but just come to a common ground and move forward with peace and love.
That's powerful. I agree with that. Well, thank you for joining us, Javon.
No problem.
Always, man, this was a pleasure. Please join us again. Hopefully it won't be, hopefully one day it won't be the same exact circumstance. We can talk about maybe some different things. Thank you to everyone who participated, watched all the comments. We'll be here again next week. This is Impact 2021. Thank you, and have a good one.